You've seen the thumbnails, you've seen the tier lists, you've seen the posts claiming, this is the best deck in Marvel Snap. But here's the truth, the meta's lying to you. Win rates don't tell the whole story. Bot lobbies will skew the results, and copying the #1 deck often just really tanks your cubes. My goal today is to break down why the meta is not exactly what you think it is. And more importantly, how do you navigate through all the noise? When people say the meta, they usually mean one thing: win rate charts. Deck X is 57%, deck Y is 53%. This has an average cube rate of 1 billion. Truth is, those numbers are just a snapshot. They're not reality. But why? Because a lot of the trackers out in the publicly available data are very often slightly skewed. Many of them do filter out bots, but not all of them do. So the data is not exactly what you think it is, especially when you're looking at win rate, because you might have a 57% win rate, but if you're only winning 1 cube at a time, maybe 2, but when you lose, you're losing 4 at a time, you have to weigh that in. Meanwhile, a 45% win rate Mr. Negative deck is actually climbing. But the good news is you can still use these different sites, not just for the decks that you think might do well for you because they work well for others, but more importantly, they're showcasing play patterns. So go ahead, copy a list from one of your favorite sites. But if you don't know how to snap, retreat, bait the priority out, you're not going to match up to what the spreadsheets say. Think about it. How many times have you actually copied a deck from a creator or one you saw on a website, and then you tanked 3 ranks or 5 ranks? If it's happened to you, let me know down below. Next, think of bots. Ranked is filled with them, and the lower you are in the ranks too, the more and more bots you're going to see. Remember, bots aren't what are pushing bad sequences. Bots don't hold on to cubes for later. They're the ones that are playing Armor and Nova. So a deck that might look unstoppable on paper, when you put it in the hand of a bot, it flops. Now remember, as I said, many of the public sites, they just can't filter out all of the bot data cleanly. That's why in the beginning of the season, when you look at brand new cards that come out, the stats are so inflated. In addition to so many players that have dropped below infinite that are now climbing their way back up with these brand new cards. So the data is never truly accurate. It's making the top decks look like absolute meta breakers, and then you have the ability of like, yeah, I can dunk on a 5-year-old, I've got this, and then you go up against someone my size who's 6'5". Wouldn't it be easier without bots? Do you think we should have bots at all in upper end of ranked even? What do you think? So I remind you, when you're choosing a deck and you want to look at those statistics, don't look at the win rate. You've got to look at the cube rate. And there's a time and a place for when win rate is more important in a tournament setting, sometimes even in Conquest. But if you're trying to climb the ranked ladder, sure, you might have a deck that goes 6-6, but averages +2 cubes per win. And that's going to climb way faster than a deck that went 10-2, but is only squeaking by with a lot of retreaters. So that's why it looks like the meta might be lying to you at times, because you could see a 45% win rate from a Mr. Negative deck being one of the top decks in the game because of the massive cube gains, not the massive win rates. Take a look at a deck also like Discard Dracula. If you look at the win rates, sure, every time Dracula flips and hits the APOC, it's going to be a huge, win, but more often than not, your opponent is also thinking you don't have it. So it's either a 1 cube win or an 8 cube win, but your snap equity will also help determine that. That misbalance of knowledge is what causes huge cube gains. And another piece within that is sample size. I know this firsthand. I do a whole series on quickly testing cards and getting a first impression in a variety of different archetypes, but I might only play 10 to 20 games of each deck and have to make an initial assessment. And I'll be the first person to tell you, my word is not gospel. If you really want to see how a deck is performing, you're going to need thousands of games with thousands of people. The larger sample sizes are what are more defining to determining if a deck is actually good or not. So when you look at certain meta pools that exist in all of these sites, very often they're just lumped together with a large amount of rank 30s with maybe a couple infinite. And for some other decks, maybe it's the other way around. Take a deck with a high skill gap, something like Sarah Control, where it is a more difficult deck to navigate because you're constantly reading and playing into counters. There could be thousands of games in that, but typically the ones that are really succeeding are in the higher end. So the more time it has in the higher end of gameplay, the true leveling of statistics will balance out more accurately. So in the quick hands of a casual, it might be a C tier deck, but in a tournament champion's hands, it can win another one. So how can you read into the actual meta of what is happening for you? There's basically three things. Number one, really focus on that cube rate. It will always hold more weight in your climb to ranked than it will any other statistic that you look at. Cube rate over win rate, over games played, over popularity. Cube rate is king. Number two, look at the live person data and data that filters out as much as possible when it comes to potential bot play. So do your research, find the sites that really put an effort forward to filter out bot statistics, and look at the tournament scene where it's truly live player versus live player. Get experience from Conquest and play up against real players as well, and take that live player data and use only that, not the muddled data that might have some easy bot wins mixed into it. And number three, when looking at decks, don't look at the 12 card list. Look at the archetype itself. Is there a specific 6 card package that really makes this deck shine? Is it the full archetype that does really well because of popularity of certain cards or lack of popularity of certain cards existing within the meta? Every week, different tech becomes more relevant than others. So the shell is what truly matters, not the actual list itself. Because when you do that, that's when you can define the meta less like gospel and more like a guideline, because you'll know when to follow it, but you'll also know when to ignore it. So whenever you hear a creator, a friend, anybody in the world of Marvel Snap say, "This is the best deck in Marvel Snap," remember, take it with a grain of salt, because it might be the best deck for them in that moment, but do your cubes confirm that? Because more often than not, the cubes will never lie. Have you fallen into this type of a meta trap before and gotten stuck? And if so, let everybody else know down in the comments, what did you learn from it? How did you get out of it? Let's build that conversation here, because as a creator who showcases many of these decks and talks about something unique or different, I try to do my best, and I hope you see it too, to let people know what works about this and why, not that this is the best 12 card deck. And that's the conversation I hope to regularly have here down in those comments. So I appreciate it, everyone. And as always, see you next time.